Lefty Crate developed his Deceiver minnow, I believe back in the 50s. And it was originally designed as a bass fly, and it was pure white with a silver underbody. Nowadays they come in hundreds of colors and variations, but the design is still there, with a lot of other streamer flies with feathers. They foul up on a cast, and Lefty spent a lot of time developing this fly, which will not foul on the back cast. The feathers don't get caught within the hook as you're casting it. So it's actually a very simple fly to tie. And you start with a streamer hook. In this case I'm going to use a size 6. Like any size you want, basically it's imitating another bait fish. So I've got one of them, I've debarbed it already. I'm going to put that in there, and just going to use some white thread. Thicker is probably better on this one, just because you're going to be tying hair onto it. Just tie it up to the back of the hook. Trim any excess off there. And the key to this fly is the Deceiver hackle feather. You're actually going to grab 3 to 4 of these.
Where did you find those?
I got these ones at Wholesale Sports, but Dennis may be able to speak to it. I'm not sure if the fishing hole has them.
Yeah, we have them.
It's basically a cape. You have all kinds of different feathers. Some guys will go and pick through these and find 3 to 4 about the same length and size and try to make them all fancy. In all of the videos I've seen of Lefty tying it, he grabs 3 to 4 feathers and just ties them onto the hook. So I'm just going to grab a couple of feathers. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate, so you can just cut them off the bottom. And then try to turn them so they point outwards when you tie them onto the hook. It just gives it a little more movement in the water. And you want to be 2 to 3 times the length of your hook coming off the back end. So there's a whole lot of extra feather. You can just cut it off. You can hide it under the underbody. I like to cut it off. And on a lot of flies, you don't want all that fluffy stuff. It really doesn't matter on the Deceiver because it's hidden within the body. Next, we're going to take some Flashabou accent and put it along each side of the tail. About the same length as your tail feathers you have on there. And you only need a couple strands of this. You don't need a whole lot of it. It really pops out in the water. So you can either tie it on one side, tie it on the other side, or you can tie it down the middle and bend it, which I find is much easier. And then just lock it in place with a few wraps. So on the original Deceiver, silver tinsel would be the body. I like using this flash. So just take another couple strands of it, tie it in, And then we're going to wrap it around the body. And I'm going to bring my thread forward. And then, because I have one of these fancy rotating vices, I don't have to do this by hand. I can lock my thread in place and rotate my vise. Just going to trim the excess off. So the fly's half done already. It's very simple to tie. I've just got a little bit of hair to throw in there, and some people will put a bead head on the end of it. So I'm going to use white bucktail. Looks like a skunk, that's right. And you can cut the hair from the front, but it's often easier to cut it along the back, right along the edge. I'm just going to take a pinch of it in my hand. You don't need a ton of this hair. Some people will go overboard. The more you put on there, the heavier the fly is actually going to be to cast. So I cut it out of the back. Pull all the small hair out of it, and then a trick the guys online use to try to get it to lay nice, so they'll grab it like this and they will cut it towards their fingers. If you cut it away, the hair wants to go away as well. So if you're going to do that, cut towards your fingers. To me, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to cut that hair off at the end once it's on the hook. So I put it along the side of the hook, and I want this to come about 2/3 of the way down where my tail's going to be. So I'm going to hold it back here and tie it in place. And then I have all this hair out of the end. Just because I use the extra hair, I can grab it and snip it off. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side of this hook. So I'm going to grab another tuft of hair. Put it out, pull all the little hairs out of the bottom. Lay it alongside my fly and tie it in place. So at this point, the hair might want to move around on you. That's normal. Don't worry about it. You can finagle it here before you actually lash it hard in place. Like with this one, you can see it's kind of moved all over. You can kind of grab it and twist it and make it do what you want. I kind of got it in place. So I'll grab it and I'll put a couple hard wraps around it. And this will happen. You'll break your thread. Okay, so it broke off, so I'm just gonna make sure I do an extra couple wraps here to capture the old thread so it doesn't come undone on me. And the beauty of white thread with white hair, I can't tell where that is. I don't really need to cut it off. So down the sides I've put white. The original Deceiver would have white out the top as well, but locally green works really well. So you'll find a lot of the local fishermen will use a chartreuse or a darker green for the back of the fish. So same thing, we'll cut it off the back. This tuft should be a little larger than what you were working with the white hair. And it's going to lay across the back and match up with your tail. Yep, it's just one of those nights. Okay, so to finish the fly, some people will put on one of these bead heads. They're a cone. They would slide over the end and you can tie it in there. I like the lighter fly. I like actually to fish the surface with these minnows. Some people will go deep water and put the weight on the end of them. So I can pass both around at the end here. But to finish the fly off, just taper the head down, cover everything in thread. And if you have thick thread, this won't take nearly as long. I got to build up a head with this small thread that I brought. Got a little bit of extra hair here I'm going to cut off. So I've got a bit of a head there. I'm going to take a little bit of red Flashabou to make a gill on the other side. So small length of this. Cut it. If you don't have a rotating vise, just take your hook out, put it the other way around. Tie this in place. And we'll finish building our head up. And then we take the gill and hold it to the hook point and cut it off. So once that's in place, you can clean your head up. Take all the little bits of hair off the end of it with scissors, whip finish it. And you could fish with that. A lot of us like the look of those eyes. So you can buy them the fishing hole, Wholesale Sports, just about any of the fishing stores. They're basically stickers. But to make sure they stay on, you can use super glue, you can use resin, head cement, anything like that works. For the sake of making it quick, I'm just going to use some Loon Outdoors UV resin. And I'll put it on the side about where the eye would be on a fish. Stick that in place. Go to the other side. the second one on. Kind of get them where I want, and then with the UV, just take your little flashlight, hit it for a few seconds, and it should harden right up for you. Okay, last step would be put head cement all over the head, just so any knots you put in there won't come undone and you don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna